Juventus have lost each of their first two group stage games of the Champions League campaign for the first time ever. Just taking a look at the Group H standings, they have 0 points after two games. They were beaten 2-1 by Benfica on Wednesday. As we now welcome in Stuart Robson to join us as well. Jules still with us. Robbo, how did it go so wrong for Juve?
Well, they started the game brilliantly. The first 15 minutes, they got the ball wide, they got their wing-backs high up the field, they got crosses into the box. Milik and Vlahovic looked threatening. McKennie was making runs into the box. And then they stopped doing the things that made them such a good team in that first 15 minutes. And they did exactly the same against PSG. If you've got Milik up front and you've got Vlahovic playing alongside in two players who are good in the air, and you've got Cuadrado down one side of the field and Kostic down the other, you need to get crosses into the box. That's the way they caused PSG the very few problems they did cause them. And that's the way they got their goal from a free kick. But once they stopped doing that after 15 minutes, and I don't know why they stopped doing that, they didn't switch the play out quickly enough. Juventus at the moment haven't got the midfield. All the front players are going to be clever around the box, that are going to be inventive, are going to be creative. So the one way you have to play is to get it wide, get crosses into the box and use the height of Milik, Vlahovic, McKennie making forward runs. And they didn't do that. And unless they do that, Juventus are going to have a major, major problem.
Now, how are things going to change then, Jules, if Max Allegri's sticking around?
Well, I think they have to keep him. We saw Arrivabene, who is one of the directors, if you want, saying to a fan today he was in the city centre of Turin having lunch with the Benfica president, and one of the fans was shouting Allegri out, and Arrivabene said, OK, but you have to pay the wages of the next manager then. I just don't think right now Juve can afford to sack Max Allegri and all his staff and then hire a high-profile manager like a Thomas Tuchel, let's say, for the sake of it, after him. I just don't think they've got that money right now. And so I think, and also because they gave the contract that they gave to Allegri when he came back after Sarri and Pirlo. So it's a tricky situation because I think I think the Agnelli, Arrivabene, they see the same thing as us. I mean, there's a point where you defend your manager. There's also a point where you have to be realistic. Things are not working. They don't attack well, like Robo just said, or not well enough. They don't defend well. I mean, today was pretty bad defensively. Some of his changes, substitutions make no sense whatsoever. We saw that against Salernitana on Sunday. We saw it again tonight. They have lost, as you said, for the first time the two first games in the group stage ever. They're in a bad position in the league, although the gap between the top is not too big, but the performances have been terrible, apart from the game against Roma, I guess. So things are not going well at all, and they're going bad. But yet, I think they all know that they have to stick with him and hope for the best, really, and at some point, something improves.
Robbo, is Allegri still a good manager?
I'm sure he is a good manager. He's been a good coach over the years, but he didn't do his homework on this Benfica side, or didn't do it well enough, because I've seen Benfica 4 times this year, and there's a certain style of play, and their two wide players come in off the touchline and try and find space in behind the opposition's midfield. Now, when he played 3 at the back, Danilo on one side and Bremer on the other side had big decisions to make, whether to go and close the ball down and get time to people or drop off. They did neither. They got caught in no man's land, and that's why Benfica started to run the game. That's why they had so much space to play. That's why they could counter-attack at pace, they could counter-attack at will, and they opened up Juventus time and time again. They should have won by more, really.
Ali, it's stunning when you hear what's going on. And as Jules was just saying there, it's not good when one of your directors is saying, well, do you want to pay for the new manager? Because that in itself almost says as if, like, well, yeah, I agree with you, but we can't really afford to do it.
That is not exactly a vote of confidence, is it, for your manager? And there are better ways to deal with the fans than actually expose your manager. This is exactly what has happened here, in that you're saying, hey, man, I'm seeing what you're seeing. They've been terrible. They're terrible. But we cannot afford to get rid of them. And if that's the way you're making decisions as a club, I think it paints a very clear picture as to what the issues are long-term for Juventus, short-term and long-term. If you know in your heart of hearts, if you've met as an executive board and you've actually come to the conclusion that this is not the right guy for us right now, and yet he's still the manager of this club because you fear how much it's going to cost you to get rid of him and get a new one in place, boy, it does not set you up for success. Because now you're essentially saying, we just hope it gets better. We don't really know it's going to get better. We are hoping, we think that maybe that is not how you run an elite club. Juventus, for years, has been an elite club. But the way things are looking now, not quite the case anymore.
Let's put it this way then, Jules. When you think about Allegri and you think about the managers of the world that are out there in football, how much has his stock dropped?
I think massively. I mean, I agree with Robo in the sense that he's still a good manager. He's a big name. He's won in the past. The problem is that before, it used to be all about winning for him. And he used to say, I don't care so much how we play or the performance as long as we win. And he did win. Now he's not winning. So it's 2 wins now and 4 draws in the league, and then those 2 defeats in 2 games. So in the Champions League. So it's not winning anymore. So before you had the excuse almost of saying, okay, I know this is not pretty. I know maybe the players don't really enjoy it, but at least we're winning and they must find some sort of happiness in that. Now they don't win anymore. If you're Vlahovic and they spend 80 million on you and you arrive in a team like this where you never have the ball, well, you rarely have the ball in a good position, you're isolated unless you play with Milik, but again, we clearly understand that Allegri doesn't like that anyway. You must be like, well, what are you thinking? It's terrible. Now they've got the 2 games against Maccabi Haifa in the Champions League where you expect them to get 6 points. In the league, they've got a couple of easy fixtures, but we thought Salernitana was an easy fixture as well at home, and it turned out not to be, but Monza and stuff like that before it gets harder. But God knows where they will be before the World Cup, because it could be worse before it gets better, or it might not even get better at all.
Yeah, some very important times ahead for Juve.
Well, the question I would ask Max Allegri, or anybody who's a fan of Juventus, is what is it that your team is doing really well right now? What is it that you can hang your hat on and say, this is what we're going to do, we're going to get this right, and then we'll work on the next thing? I don't think you can watch Juventus play right now and come to a conclusion as to what they do really well. There's nothing in this team that gives you that sort of feeling that this is a group that is getting better, that is showing signs of improvement. That's what's concerning, that you don't see you're building up to something. It feels like the worst is yet to come.
Robbo, I see you nodding along with Ale there. I'll give you the final word on Juve.
Absolutely. I saw Benfica, and I've seen him 3 or 4 times. They've got a manager in Schmidt that knows exactly what he wants from his team. I could see that with every pass they were making, every movement. With Juventus at the moment, I can't tell you what Allegri wants from his side. And Ali's just said it there. He's got to hang his hat on something that they're doing quite well. And if it was me, and you haven't got Chiesa in the side at the moment because he's injured, you haven't got Paul Pogba, you're going to have to be more direct. You're going to have to get it to your wing-backs or full-backs, get crosses into the box and hope that Vlahovic and Milik will do well between them and get goals from scoring with headers. That's the way they got their goal against PSG. That's the way they got their goal tonight. They've got to get back to that over the next few weeks.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.